Hello, viewer. Today, we're going to be talking about that awful, sinking feeling when you boot a game up from many a year ago that you have fond memories of, and it's just not quite hitting the same. And I think when some of you hear the game I'm going to be talking about, you might be a little mad, but it's okay. We're going to work through this, and critically, I am going somewhere, okay? The game I'm talking about is Resident Evil Code Veronica. And Code Veronica occupies this really weird space, not just in like Resident Evil's history, but in a lot of ways like console history. This was a game that came out at the very beginning of the millennium, at February 3rd, the year 2000, and it was special because it was the first Resident Evil game with like fully 3D backgrounds, unless you're a complete fucking lunatic and count Gun Survivor. That was a huge deal because what it meant is that consoles were now powerful enough to have those big, highly rendered Resident Evil character models while also being able to render a 3D environment like around them. And that felt huge. Like there's parts of Resident Evil Code Veronica that feel so cinematic and sweeping. Like there's all these beautiful shots where like if you go down an elevator, the camera top down will follow you down the elevator shaft, and it feels like more cinematic and dynamic than like anything else in Resident Evil. There's really cool shots where if you walk down a hallway, it will just kind of perfectly follow you down the hallway, and that was a big deal back then. And it really, like, it made an impact. I can remember playing this game with my cousin, and I remember just us both watching the opening cinematic, which is this just fucking crazy sequence where, like, Claire Redfield gets captured by Umbrella and brought to this weird, fucked up, strange island, and there's this awesome scene where she, like, escapes from them, and she, like, drops her weapon, and then she, like, ducks down and grabs the weapon and shoots them, which kind of doesn't really have a point, but it's fucking awesome, so you're okay with it? It was a really strange game at the time because it was exclusive to the Dreamcast. Capcom was in this really weird space where like Resident Evil, despite being basically the flagship gaming series, maybe next to Final Fantasy, or alongside it at least for the PlayStation 1, Capcom were moving Resident Evil away from Sony PlayStation. Resident Evil 4 was promised to Nintendo's GameCube. Code Veronica was a Dreamcast exclusive. And so, like, it felt weird and interesting and cool, and it really felt like you were playing this game kind of looking at the future. You know, you were seeing all these things that were never possible, and it was amazing. It was mind-blowing. But there's this weird thing that happens with games of the early 2000s, right? And I call it the curse of the 2000s. Because a lot of good shit released in the year 2000. Like, let's take a look at it here. You got stuff like, Diablo 2, you have Perfect Dark, you have Command & Conquer Red Alerts 2, which is a fucking incredible game, Majora's Mask, awesome, Deus Ex, awesome. Like, a lot of really good stuff. But I think one thing that's interesting about all these games, they are interesting because of their game design as opposed to them like pushing any hardware limitations or like doing anything like really crazy or interesting with the technology. And that's not a bad thing, but back then when like graphics and stuff like that was an absolute kind of premium, this was all stuff that had basically taken the previous generation as far as it could. And in a lot of ways, like, Resident Evil Code Veronica felt like a forward step because it was utilizing the power of the Dreamcast. It wasn't on, like, you know, any of the lesser consoles. The problem is that you hit the next year, 2001, with the, like, real advent of the PlayStation 1, especially in Japan, and just listen to the games that come out this year. Grand Theft Auto 3, Metal Gear Solid 2, Super Smash Bros. Melee, Final Fantasy X, Silent Hill 2, Devil May Cry, Eco, Sonic Adventure 2. Maybe that last one a little less. But what happens is you have a bunch of games come out and they're just cinematic and mind-blowing and insane in a way that kind of makes everything up until this point feel a little tame. And I think that's what kind of happened with Code Veronica, and especially now going back to it, it's like got some of these very early 3D environments that are trying to look realistic, and especially like in the opening sections, it just looks kind of sparse. Like the first area of this game is like this prison compound, and like compared to the mansion of Resident Evil 1 or the police station of 2 or even just Raccoon City of Resident Evil 3, it it just isn't very compelling. On top of that as well, the game is fucking slow. Like, it is a slow ass game. Making your way across the map can sometimes take like 5 to 10 minutes, and that's just like walk, 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 door animation, walk, 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 door animation, walk, 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 door animation. Oh shit, you've forgotten the item you needed. Walk, 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 back to the save room all the way. And like it is slow, and it is cumbersome, and it is hard. Like Resident Evil Code Veronica, like its opening section overwhelms you with zombies to the point that you have to know exactly what you're doing from very early on, or they are just going to chew through your health and ammo, and you really have to pick your battles. And this problem actually only grows worse with the Bandersnatches, I think that's what they're called. The Stretch Armstrong motherfuckers who plague this game. Their gimmick is that they can hit you from across the screen. They look like kind of weird, sick, fucked up tyrants, which is actually kind of awesome. But there's a lot of rooms where you will walk into the room and immediately just a Bandersnatch fist will just come off screen and just bam, fucking smack you straight away. And like, it's really frustrating, especially when like Bandersnatches are introduced and then immediately like they're a problem, and all of a sudden the game starts flooding its areas with like multiple Bandersnatches. There's multiple areas in this game where there's just 2 of them just hanging out, and you have to be like, oh fuck. On top of that as well, guys, the game is fucking corny. I remember the game being like kind of spooky and weird back in the day, but looking at it now, it is something else. I'm just gonna play the father cutscene.
What's wrong, Steve? Shoot him!
Wait! I can't! No!
Steve! No! Ah!
Father!
Steve.
Father. Father. Father.
I also just want to play the laugh that the main villain, Ashford, does. I think he's Alex Ashford. Just please listen to this.
Have it your way, then. You're just a rat in a cage anyway. I'll be sure to keep you entertained before I dispose of you. Welcome, Claire. Consider the area you are in a special playground I have prepared just for you. Please try and keep me amused, and do not disappoint me by dying too soon. I so want to enjoy this.
Yeah, so, okay, Resident Evil Code Veronica, it's really clunky, it's fucking hard, and it's corny and camp as shit. And that's why I actually think this game kind of fucking rules. Okay, so everything I said about, like, this game is true. It has aged really weird. But a lot of how it's aged is also why I find myself really, really enjoying it. And I've been thinking about this a lot because I've been thinking about like friction in video games, you know? And this is a game so fucking full of friction. And for my first couple of hours, like, I was pissed. I was like, okay, there's no way I'm gonna beat this game again because this is a pain and I don't want to deal with this. But what I didn't realize is like, that friction adds like a weight to everything you do in this game. So take the shit earlier I said about like it taking it ages to get across the map. That is true and it is annoying, but what it also means is when you're traveling back and forth from location to location, you are praying that nothing new happens to fuck up your travel. It's like, okay, I need to get here, drop this thing, collect this item, and then get back to the save room unscathed. And then it's like, oh my fucking god, there's 2 Bandersnatches in this area now, and now I'm in trouble. And like, you're cursing the game. You're like, this fucking thing. But it's also kind of awesome because it makes everything tense and weird and scary, you know? And all of a sudden, like, ink ribbons become an actual like resource concern because you want to be saving, you want to be doing like, okay, that run went pretty well, but could I do it better? Do I really want to waste an ink ribbon here or do I want to use it later? Do I want to like try and like basically repeat this bit over and over and over until I do it efficiently enough, not losing enough health and saving enough items? Or do I just want to say, fuck it, let's go? And it's led to all these really interesting choices that the game is kind of forcing on me. As well as that, I would say that the game gets like dramatically better the further you play into it, especially when you get to like the Ashford Mansion. The game feels relatively normal up until this point. You start off in like the prison, which is kind of whatever, and then you go to the like this place called the Palace, which is like a little more ornate, a little more Resident Evil, and then you get to the Ashford Mansion, and it's just this fucking absolutely insane build-up. The pathway there is like this secret like tunnel through the home, and like the lightning's flashing outside and the camera's following you as you move forward, actually making like really, really good use of the now like, you know, the non-stationary camera these games can now do. And then you get there and in the front garden, like 2 fucking insane dogs is just a pair of Bandersnatches. And I know I literally just complained about how annoying that is, but when you see them, you're like, oh, this place is going to be really fucked up, isn't it? And it's awesome. And then you get in and the place is full of just like, I think it's bats or crows that just attack you, and it's all crazy, and you get to like the Ashford twins room, and it's honestly, it's kind of making me remember why I loved so many of those old school Resident Evil games and why those games felt so weird and strange. And like the Ashford twins are a huge part of that. Like they're campy and they're weird and they're stupid, but there's also this amazing cutscene where you log onto a computer and it's both of them picking the wings off a dragonfly and then dropping it into a ant's nest, because that's who they are. You are the fucking dragonfly in this situation. You are the person who they are doing this to. And that's scary. Like, that's horror. And it's camp. And it's fucking weird, strange horror. But it's horror. And, like, it's the kind of horror that I am just kind of delighted to be experiencing again. So, have parts of Code Veronica aged badly? Yeah, I would say so. I think this game is probably a tough swing if you have never played old school survival horror. But I also think maybe one of the reasons it's so hard because the developers knew that, you know, we had played Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3. We were so used to this shit. We understood what a survival horror is at this point and how to, like, you know, how to manipulate it. And so they ramped up the difficulty with this one in response to that. And so you have to figure out how to use specific guns. If you use the crossbow wrong, you will get destroyed. That is a weapon for picking off enemies at long range because that is its purpose. And you have to like figure that out along with like when to use grenade rounds or when to use acid rounds. And it's like, it's interesting and weird and fucking cool, and I'm just excited to be playing it. It kind of feels like in old PC games where like the expansion pack would be kind of the game mechanics blown out and messed around with in these weird and amazing ways. And that's what I think Code Veronica is. It's this strange experiment of a Resident Evil game that I think if you stick with it and if you are willing to look past the parts of it that have aged and are irritating, there's actually a really cool survival horror experience here. And yeah, I think I kind of just wanted to come on here and say that. All right. Goodbye.